Hello, my name's Jess. I'm so excited today to be going down memory lane and looking back at all of the Disney internships I've interviewed for before, and I hope that this will have some good tidbits in there about the different programs, the different areas of the company, and how they all kind of do their interview process a little bit differently. I got an internship with Disney in the summer of 2019 and the summer of 2020. Unfortunately, the one in 2020 was canceled, so I've only completed one, but I've gone through the whole application, interview, crazy cycle both years. It was always a new experience, but I'm hoping to share some more information about the different interview processes I went through and share any tips with you guys about how they went and give you an idea of all the different roles that can come out of it. Okay, so to start, there's a whole video going through my resume if you want more in-depth look at my experience. But generally, I had worked before in marketing, in social media management, in communications, which is a very vague, wide field. It can be applied to a lot of different things, which is really great. When I was in college, I was still kind of just figuring out my major. I ended up doing an interdisciplinary major called American Studies, where I did my concentration in business communications and technology, which was a lot of fun. I definitely recommend an interdisciplinary major if it's available. It gave me the opportunity to take all the classes that I was most interested in. That base kind of gave me quite a few paths to go on, which I know is not the case with everybody's major in college. Some of them have a much more straightforward path, like engineering. You're only going to do internships in a certain type of engineering. But with my communications background, I was applying, it started my sophomore year. There's fall, summer, spring. Every season I was applying to at least 50 internships, basically anything that was slightly relevant. I was just casting a wide net. I heard nothing back. Months, years. I was like, at some point convinced they weren't even getting my applications and that the only way I could get an internship was by knowing somebody. But lo and behold, it came to summer after my junior year, and that's when all the interviews started coming in. So I think the school year was very relevant. And it was absolutely mind-blowing to start getting an interview. When I got that email for the first interview, I was shocked. It was the craziest day of my whole life. I just could not believe it was real. And then a couple days later, another one. A week later, another one. And I just could not believe it. I just felt so lucky. I still feel so lucky. And it was crazy to me to see the kind of wide variety of roles I interviewed for and how they kind of all did things a little bit differently. So if you're in marketing communications field, hopefully this is helpful for you. So the first role that I found out I got an interview for was doing data analytics for ABC. So I, in my previous roles, had been responsible for social media marketing, and I had done a lot of Excel sheets analyzing the data. So I definitely had relevant experience in that area. It was not at all an area that I was particularly passionate about. I do love data, and I think it's a really great way to show results. I wasn't necessarily super passionate about it. I did the first round phone screening with a really nice recruiter, answered some general questions, didn't hear back for weeks and weeks, and ended up getting rejected for that one. So that was that. The next one interview I got was for Freeform, which is in Walt Disney Television branch. It used to be ABC Family, and now they're Freeform. They're kind of more edgy content. And I got an interview for the digital product role. And this role was super vague. It was like creating products, doing product management, doing digital product research. I did not know very much about that. I had no experience managing or creating digital products. But I did my first round interview, phone screening. I did my second round interview, which was in the same hour time slot. I went between 2 different interviews with people on the team. And then I got offered that role, and that was the role I ended up doing my summer of 2019. I absolutely loved it, and it was a position that I didn't necessarily have experience in, but all the skills, it said you need to be organized, creative, thinker, problem solver, all these things, and my experience wasn't the same, but it fit into those same skills. And so I was really obviously grateful that I ended up kind of taking a chance on applying for this role that was not exactly what I had ddone before, because I ended up doing it, and it ended up being a great addition to a lot of the work I'd previously done, and it's totally impacted where I see my career going moving forward. the next role was a Disneyland internal communications role. And this role I was so excited about. I live in Southern California, so really my dream was to work at Disneyland. And internal communications was a super interesting role. So I did the phone screening for that, and then I did a second round interview where I did a video interview with one leader from the team. They were really nice. And then they gave me a writing sample. So this is one of the only ones I've done where I had to submit something to them. So they gave me a prompt, and I believe the prompt was that employees were being invited to a preview screening of a new Tangled show that was opening at Disneyland. So you had to write a little piece, the invite, which is basically encouraging them to go, and showing how, by going to the show, they would now be able to know more about it and tell the guests at Disneyland more about it. And I had a lot of fun with that. I put in a lot of Tangled puns, and so that was fun. But then ultimately I was rejected from that role, which I was sad about. It was funny because when I was doing my internship that summer, I ended up meeting the internal communications Disneyland intern, so we must have been going for the same position, and she got it, but she seemed very nice. And then there were two other roles that I got asked to interview for while I was in the later stages of interviewing for the Freeform one. So I was the Freeform and Disneyland one, I was towards the end of my process, and I got invited to do a first round interview. One was Disney DTCI, which is Direct to Consumer and International. That's the brand of the Walt Disney Company that does all the streaming services and overseas projects, media businesses, stuff like that. So that role was Direct to Consumer and International online site production. I did the initial phone screening for it, I believe. This one was unique because I didn't apply to this role. This role was unique because a recruiter actually reached out to me. So this was the first ever position where the recruiter emailed me. She said, "Hey, I came across your resume and I think that you would be a good fit for this role. Are you interested in interviewing for it?" And I think at that point it was the same week I was accepting my other internship, so I ended up saying, "No, I accepted something else, I can't interview." But I thought that was really cool to know that they could also come across your application somewhere else, maybe the applications from other roles that don't get chosen, they might get sent to the recruiter for another position. So that was really cool. And then the other one was the marketing internship at Pixar, which Pixar is just a huge dream to me. Pixar is so much smaller. They take so many fewer interns every summer, and they only do summer, they don't do other seasons. So it's so much harder to get a Pixar internship than any of the other Disney internships. And I just love Pixar. And they don't do marketing internships very often. Most of those are computer science. In the last 2 years, they have not done marketing. So this one I was really, really trying. I had an interview scheduled, and I was really trying to do it. But then I was accepting my Freeform one, but I was like, should I not accept that one and interview for Pixar instead? It ended up being a really tough week because I could not decide what to do. So in the moment, I ended up accepting the Freeform one and telling Pixar, that I would accept another position. In hindsight, I kind of wish that I would have just interviewed for the Pixar one anyway. It wasn't very likely that I would have gotten it. And if I had gotten it and loved it, been really excited about that role, I could have said no to the other position. It's not good to do. I didn't feel comfortable doing that because I wanted to be respectful to everyone's time and be respectful to the other applicants to the Freeform role. So that's why it ended up working out fine. But looking back, I think it's not always a bad idea to just kind of keep interviewing for everything, and even if you've accepted something, you can go back and cancel it, which is not ideal and usually good to avoid. But it would have been interesting to at least done the first round of the Pixar interview, kind of to see how that went. And then the next spring, it was in the winter, I was interviewing for a part-time internship in the spring. This was up in the Bay Area. I was going to Berkeley, and I interviewed for a marketing role and a publicity role at Lucasfilm. So the headquarters for Lucasfilm is in San Francisco, and I would have considered taking a semester off of school for it, I think. The initial interview for Lucasfilm was really similar to the ones for Disney. I definitely spoke to the same recruiters multiple times on some of these roles. They were always really nice. And the Lucasfilm ones, I was really excited about. It seemed like a really cool and innovative team, but I ended up getting rejected for both of those after the first round interview, so I never did a second round or video interview for those. Alright, so that was everything kind of for 2019, and so now for the 2020 internship season, these were the roles that I interviewed for. The first one was Disney Plus doing product management. I thought this was going to be really interesting, obviously because Disney Plus is so new, and I think I got this interview because I did digital product with Freeform. So this round of interviews, it was really cool to be able to refer to doing the Disney internship the year before, and I think it definitely helped my chances. The Disney Plus product management internship, the first round interview was really similar to all the other ones, and then the second round I did a video interview with the one hiring manager for that position, and I have a very clear memory that he asked me like, what's an item near you, like a product, and then he was like, how can it be improved, who uses it? It was basically like he was throwing a case at me, and I was not prepared at all, because all of the other video interviews I did, they were so behavioral, asking me a lot of questions about what I liked to do, where I saw my career going, why I liked Disney, why I liked marketing, tell me about a time you faced a challenge, blah blah blah. And so when he asked me, he threw this case one at me about product, I was just not ready, and I remember feeling so terrible after that interview, and I did not make it to the next round. But it was a good learning experience. I remember that was one of the first ones, and it got me back in the mode of overly preparing for the interviews like I had been doing the year before. And then another one that I interviewed for was the Walt Disney Imagineering Content and Planning. I was super excited for this internship. I think Walt Disney Imagineering is such a cool branch of the company, and to be kind of involved in the planning and content, I think that would have had to do with like the Star Wars Galactic Star Cruiser that's coming out, Avengers Campus probably, and kind of organizing all of the deliverables and content for the different things in Walt Disney Imagineering seemed really exciting to me. I also interviewed for Walt Disney Imagineering project coordination. So those roles I thought were going to be really cool and a really unique way into Walt Disney Imagineering, because I'm not an engineer. But it would let me still have a hand in those projects and be kind of involved in them. But I did not get either of those. And then these last four I was doing, these last four internships I was doing at the same time, and these I was pretty close between. The first one was the Disney Movies Anywhere product development. This one somebody reached out to me about too, a recruiter did, and this was definitely because I had done Freeform product development before. And this one I was honestly not as excited about. The Disney Movies Anywhere I don't see as being one of their newest or biggest growing areas of the company. I remember doing the video interviews for this, and the whole team seemed very nice. It was not the role for me. I also did 2 interviews for talent relations and franchise management. I'm very interested in franchise management, so I was very excited about this role, but I ended up denying it, telling them I was going to stop moving forward in the process because I accepted another role, which was corporate alliances and business development. So that was a role I interviewed for and ended up accepting for summer of 2020. I had the initial phone interview, and then I did a video interview, and it was with the whole team. So it was a video of me, and then it was a video of basically a conference room where there were like 6 people sitting around the table. And they were all asking me questions about my resume. I was talking to all of them, and they were so nice. They were a really engaging team, really fun, really interested in like my Disney club at Berkeley that I worked at. They all went around the table and said their favorite Disney movie, and we talked about that, and they were super nice. So the corporate alliances is a pretty big team, and then they have multiple branches, so it was with business development under the corporate alliances branch. And one thing I remember during the interview was I asked them, what's an example of a project you worked on recently? Always make sure to have good questions ready for the interviews, because that really gave me a lot of insight into the role, especially once you're interviewing for a few. You want to determine not just which one will take me, but which one will I take, which one will be the best for me. And they told me that a deal they had just closed was that they were looking to have a corporate alliance with a company that was doing fake meat, and so they would do fake meat products at Disney World. And so business development is all about kind of reaching out, finding those contacts, getting pricing, getting information about how to get in touch with them, and then they would pass it off to the legal team and the next team once they decided on it, and they ended up deciding on Beyond Burger. And I thought that was so interesting because I have not been that involved in business development, doing industry research. I think the role would have had a lot of really interesting information for me to share. So I interviewed for the role, and then I ended up getting a random phone call. I did not expect it, and it was the leader of that team, and he said, "We're offering it to you." And I was like, what? It was based in Orlando, Florida, and so I was like, I have to get back to you. I did a phone call with the girl that was in my current internship position, and that was so cool because she had a lot of information to share about how the team works, where the office is, what her experience living in Orlando was like, and that helped me feel really comfortable to say yes to the internship. I accepted it the last week of February, and then COVID hit in mid-March, so I wasn't sure if it was going to go remote or get delayed or what, and then they ended up calling me in April, canceled. It was fully canceled, so I never did that position, but I was hoping to. So those were all of the positions. I know that was kind of a lot to go through. I have another video up with tips about interviewing specifically. There's a lot to go over there, but I just thought this would be an interesting video because going into the application process, I don't think I would have expected there being such a range in the types of positions and the types of ways that they interview. I mean, overall they're relatively similar, but really the branches don't talk to each other at all. So when I was interviewing for Lucasfilm, they had no idea I was also interviewing for Pixar. All those like silos are pretty separate, and you get sometimes an email from a recruiter. Now they have an AI recruiter you set up the times with. There's just a whole bunch of different ways it can happen. So hopefully the biggest thing that you can learn from this is apply to everything. Anything that's somewhat relevant. It does not hurt you. The recruiter's never looking at your application thinking you're a good fit, and then they see, oh, they also applied to all of these other ones. No, they don't know what they want to do. Like, that's just not how it works. They're looking at your resume for that one position only, and if you're a fit for that, they're going to interview you. And giving yourself more options is always better. And then it gives you the chance to be selective and really think about what you want from the position and what you want to learn from Disney. I hope everybody finds one that works for them. I hope this was helpful. Please let me know if you have any questions, and check out my other videos with recommendations about resumes and with more information about my experience in 2019 doing my internship. So thank you, bye.